as the National Taxpayers Executive Vice President. You know, Brandon, different case, I know, but it's all in how something is marketed, and maybe we can fault Emmanuel Macron for not selling this better, but a lot of people are hearing these cuts and thinking, wait a minute, we're used to the idea of retiring at 62. You're telling us at 64. How do we avoid that here when we have to make the hard decisions ourselves about extending the life of Social Security and that sort of thing?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, we never want to follow the policy advice of the French. I think that's an evergreen rule we should adhere to. But what they're trying to do there is to make a very modest change to the retirement age that would still have a lower retirement age than much of Western Europe, Belgium, Portugal,
and
Italy,
phase it
Spain,
in over a number of years, much like Ronald Reagan and Tip O'Neill were working on back in the early 1980s to sort of extend the shelf life of Social Security, and it worked. Something like that. You don't want to scare people in or at near retirement now, but you want to remind younger people, of course, they can pick an age, where we're going with this, because it is not sustainable the way it is now.
Yeah, and they're facing the same demographic trends that we are here in the United States, with fewer workers, more retirees. Right. So that's creating these systemic problems with our Social Security system that we need to address now. You know, we know that about 10 years we're going to exhaust the Social Security Trust Fund, and then we're going to be facing some very significant and immediate cuts to benefits. So to avoid this kind of panic, to avoid these kind of protests in the streets, it would be wise to not put our head in the sand and instead look at some incremental changes that we can make, reforms to the program to increase its sustainability. Unfortunately, a lot of people on Capitol Hill want nothing to do with Social Security, period.
I'm just wondering, I know, and I'll be speaking with her later today, Nikki Haley, the former South Carolina governor and UN ambassador, has been talking the idea of changing the retirement age in this country and maybe not quite means testing it, but saying that the wealthy are not going to get as much. Now, I don't know how that would fly, but I know at least she's thinking of things. But that could land her on that third rail of politics. Don't touch this stuff. What do you think?
I think it will, in all likelihood, given what the former president is saying, what a lot of Republicans and certainly almost all Democrats are saying right now, we are talking about third rail territory here. And that's really unfortunate. You know, we have these structural problems in our entitlement programs. Kudos to Nikki Haley for going out there and speaking about them, about being honest about these problems and putting some solutions on the table. I like those ideas. I think they ought to be vetted by members of Congress. I think we ought to create commissions. It's kind of a mealy-mouthed approach, but I think we ought to create commissions to evaluate all of the trust funds that are heading toward bankruptcy right now, not just Social Security, but Medicare, the Highway Trust Fund as well.
Yeah, we did that with something called the Grace Commission back in the early 80s. Ronald Reagan, of course, Tip O'Neill, so combining resources and egos and fighting allegiances to get something done. So it is possible, and as you remind me of that, it has been done. Brandon, great seeing you again.
Thanks, Neil.
All right, in the meantime, I want to draw your attention to Capitol Hill. It seems like a lot of hearings, a lot of important folks.